Grace and peace, everybody. Good morning. We are back. You saw the thumbnail. You saw the title. You know what we're going to do. We're going to jump back in to, we're going back to Candyland, y'all. I know yesterday we had a great live stream. We had no candy, no candy references whatsoever. But I told y'all that I was going to come back this morning because I had a lot of stuff to get out of the traps. So the traps have been full, so let's get at it. I do want to ask you a question to get ourselves warmed up because it is kind of early on a Monday. The last Monday, is this the last Monday? Yeah, this is the last Monday of the year. Shout out to the last Monday. Okay, anybody who has kids in college, I need you to tap in. If you have kids in college, whether they've already gone off to college, they've gone and graduated and moved on, whatever. I need to know this. When your kids come back from college to visit you at your home, do they do chores? Like, do they wash dishes? Do they, I don't know, cut the grass? Do they, chores? Do they do chores now that they're in college or they've left your home? They're visiting you. They're staying in your house. Do they do chores? Clean the kitchen, sweep the floor. I'm not saying they gotta go wash windows and probably don't need to go cut grass, but do they do chores still? Because we're really trying to figure this one out. We're just not, we seem to be coming to a loggerhead as it relates to, you need to do some dishes, chick. So I'm just wondering, is that common for your college age child when they come home to actually do chores, take out the garbage, walk the dog, whatever like that? Is that common? I'm new at this, and mine seems to be struggling pretty bad. 'Cause, I mean, it's not terrible. It's not terrible, but we need stuff done. Like, what's going on here? Like, what's happening? Clean your restroom when you get done. Clean your bathroom. Like, your sister does a pretty decent job at it, but you got to add to it. Like, anyway, that's my question. So if you are a parent of a college student, or you were a parent of a college student, when they came home, did they do chores? I'm telling you, we're trying to figure it out. We are trying to figure it out over here at Whitaker Park. I think we're doing okay, but that kitchen looked like a bomb went off in it this morning. Like, what in the world's going on here? Like, what's happening here? And why is there so many loads of clothes that need to be washed? This makes no sense. What's going on? Anyway, that was my question for the day. Feel free to jump in and tell me. Let me know what y'all think about it. My friends, let's talk about Candace. One of the things that I think it is starting to become abundantly clear. Turning Point USA and Candace had cut ties a long time ago. I'll even go as far to say that Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens had cut ties a long time ago. And one of the reasons I say this, and I'm going to show you some evidence to that point as well. I think they cut ties, and I feel comfortable saying they cut ties by the sheer volume of, we were best friends. He was my road dog. I was his David. We were aliens on time travelers. The amount of quote unquote proof that Candace was trying to put out there that she and Charlie Kirk were best friends. It just seems weird. It seems odd that you would put so much effort. If it were true, everybody would have known it. Or it wouldn't take this much convincing, if you will. Because I believe that's what she was doing, has been trying to convince us. Because now proof and evidence is starting to come out that maybe that wasn't the case. Well, now she's already built a pretty large bulkhead of Charlie Kirk and I were best friends. I was the closest thing ever, blah, blah, blah. Well, now that the truth is starting to come out, again, truth moves slower than a lie, it's starting to look a little weird. So let me bring this in and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Thank y'all so much to the best live chat on the internet. What'd you say here? My son didn't until we had a junior in college. He really had grown up by that time. Okay. And you're right. There was no proof outside of the text messages, but nobody was showing her anything else. So I think the narrative started to take root that they were best friends and blah, blah, blah. And most people logical like yourself, Michelle, were like, hold on, wait, Why is that from 2018? You were asking the right questions. But a lot of people were just saying, oh, they were friends. She got a text message. Not she has a text message from 2018, almost 7 years ago. And now she's showing it as if that's proof that they were best friends. And you heard me even say, like, well, show me some text messages from the last 24 months. Show me full context of your conversations in the, 2 weeks before he died, 3 weeks before he died, 2 months, 8 months, something. Show me something besides 6 years ago. Let me show you this clip real quick. And this is going around on the Twitter. The Twitter is going bananas about this. And what is it? It's a letter from the TPUSA Colorado University at Boulder campus. We are the chapter of Turning Point USA, and we stand by this statement. And I did check with Grok to make sure the statement was legitimate, and it is, as far as I know, is legitimate. Now, this is from February 21st, 2019. This is right around the time that she was fired from TPUSA, if I'm understanding right, or she had been fired. Turning Point USA is free market, limited government, and fiscal responsibility. Turning Point USA is a freedom of speech, political activism, grassroots humility, and our incredible field program. It is a strong chapter and activists throughout this nation. The ones who receive backlash from school administrators have speakers uninvited or protested, have grades ruined for standing by our values, and our faces painted in the local media. But we do not care. We continue to fight back. Why? Because we know that what we say and what we believe is truth. And I'm sorry, it gets fuzzy the more you zoom in. Let me see if I can zoom in just a little bit more. Hopefully that's as good as it just gets fuzzy. I don't think it looks that good when you get to zoom in too much. Many activists and chapters have reached out to top employees and headquarters within the national organization about Candace Owens' role in Turning Point USA. We have yet to receive any substantive response. It is unfortunate that this is the manner that we've had to resort to, but we can no longer silently wait for things to change. We are chapters, presidents, and leaders of Turning Point USA, and we condemn the rhetoric and role of Candace Owens within our organization. It seems that controversy has always surrounded Candace Owens, and unfortunately, since her time as communications director, those controversies have been reflection of Turning Point USA. As the communications director, she should be further advocating for Turning Point USA's mission, not her own projects or platform. Let's just stop. That's something that we've noticed with Candace as well. Everything that she's been pushing as of late has been her own projects. Can I zoom in on that? Her own projects. Nothing, like what is the platform that she's trying to push on right now? Nothing. Just her project, something that she's about. Let's keep it going. We understand that as an individual, she has the right to express her own thoughts and opinions, though they don't always necessarily align with Turning Point's mission. However, when she is serving in the capacity and the role that she has, what she says can and will be interpreted by others as a reflection of Turning Point USA. Most recently, her comments about the failed art student and nationalism caused a stir. Was the video cut to make her look like a failed art student sympathizer or supporter? Yes. Do we believe Candace Owens supports the actions of the failed art student of Germany at home or abroad? No. But this case serves as the perfect demonstration of how simple messages she means to convey become controversial headlining news within a matter of minutes. Again, as the communications director, she must know how to communicate professionally and effectively. Understand that when she speaks, Turning Point USA is associated with those comments. That's an outstanding comment. I love that. Yeah, this is about the comment that she made that actually, I believe, is fair to say is what got her fired from TPUSA. So she had not been fired as of yet. Additionally, there's no problem with condemning the Me Too movement, but that way in which Candace went about it in the tone deaf. It seems as though she looked at the Me Too movement as another leftist facade for trying to take down men. Unfortunately, she entirely missed the mark. For a lot of people, conservatives, including the Me Too movement, was about solidarity with and for the victims of assault. When she made the comments, outsiders didn't just look at the Candace saying those things. They looked at the communications director of Turning Point USA saying these things, something that became very evident during last summer's Young Women's Leadership Summit. Turning Point USA is above this thoughtless and divisive rhetoric. Let me start again. Turning Point USA is above this thoughtless and divisive rhetoric. And as chapters, presidents, and leaders of Turning Point USA, we will no longer stand idly by as they continue. We do not believe Candace Owens to be the most effective representation of Turning Point USA as communications director or otherwise. We have seen many hardworking activists and chapters across the United States disassociate with Turning Point USA simply because they can't align themselves with the rhetoric and statements that have come out. The core and backbone of Turning Point USA is our chapters and activists. If we are being discouraged, how will Turning Point USA go about fixing this? What will be done? All right. And this is making its rounds on the Twitterverse. And I wanted to bring this up because a lot of people hadn't seen this. I just saw it yesterday or Saturday. And I thought it was super interesting because how did this slide past us, man? It wasn't just that Candace Owens left Turning Point to go to PragerU. No, she was a problem. And she got booted out of TPUSA, and it was for good reason. This was the whole failed art student was just a nationalist comment that she made that made no sense whatsoever. Even in its beginnings, it made no sense. But that was it. Now, I want to bring in something I know many of y'all have not heard. I'm gonna go on a limb and say people say they never saw it. Matter of fact, here, let me drop that link in the chat for this so you can go check it out on your own as well. And here's the link for this, what I just read. I just dropped that in the chat for y'all. I'm almost 100% certain what I'm about to play you all, you've never seen before. This is back when Candace she was at the PragerU. She's sitting down with Dennis Prager. I'm just going to let this play out, and you're going to hear some of the most conflicting commentary I think you've ever heard, because most of you know what Candace says now in 2025. Well, this is back in like 2020, 2019, or whenever it was. And it's crazy because it's, you know what? Let me just let you hear it. Shout out to the best live chat on the internet. Thank y'all for jumping in. Green hearts in the chat when you can hear.
And I also think there needs to be a bridge created. So I always say this, the Black community has so much to learn from the Jewish community. So much to learn.
Just 5 years ago, Candace Owens sat across from Dennis Prager on her PragerU show, passionately defending Judeo-Christian values and praising the moral clarity of the Jewish people. Fast forward to today, and Candace sounds like a completely different person. From once aligning herself with Israel's defenders to now echoing talking points that many call dangerously hostile to Jews and the Jewish state, the transformation is undeniable. What happened to Candace Owens? Was it politics, pressure, or a complete ideological shift? Watch this clip in full and decide for yourself. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Why do you think Candace changed so drastically on Israel and Judaism?
Well, I'll give you a good example of that. A guy called my show a number of years ago, and he goes, because people know they can say anything to me, which is exactly your point. I'm not going to pounce on them. So a guy calls up and he goes, Dennis, let's face it, Jews control Hollywood. So, of course, I know 90% of the listeners, and maybe even he, expected me to say, you're an anti-Semite and hang up the phone. Instead, I said, do you know, the truth is Jews are disproportionately powerful in Hollywood. You're absolutely right. What's your point? And there was total silence. He had no point. And I went on, I said, Can you show me one way in which this has benefited Jews? Can you name a movie in the last 40 years that shows Israel in a positive light? That shows Jews in a positive light? And it was all of this received silence.
I love that. I love that because that is literally
That is
how
what
you win.
That's how, exactly.
That's how you win.
Yes.
You don't need to be offended.
So the listener is clear. Well, this guy really doesn't have a point. He just wanted to attack Jews. But I didn't have to say that. And he wanted me to get. But it's very hard to upset.
He wanted you to get upset because actually what you prove when you do get upset is that you can't answer the question and there's something there. So if you said, your question is anti-Semitic, then he's like, what's he hiding? What's he hiding? Why are they controlling Hollywood?
The calm one wins.
Yeah, the calm one always wins. And I've seen more and more appearances of people, and understandably, I mean, I've seen people on stage and they say,
I think Candace needs to go back and watch this. I think she needs to go back and listen to the wisdom of Dennis Prager. He literally just told her why it is that she's getting shellacked on Twitter. Let me back up just a smidgen. Hold on, back up just a little taste. He literally just told her, this is why you're losing on Twitter. This is why you're losing. And what did he say? He said, the calm one wins. Candace does not come across as calm at all on Twitter. She sounds unhinged. Now, maybe she saves face when she's on camera, but if you just read her thoughts on Twitter, she does not sound like somebody that's in control. Watch what he says again.
Your question is anti-Semitic, and he's like, what's he hiding? What's he hiding? Why are they controlling Hollywood?
The calm one wins.
Yeah, the calm one always wins. And I've seen more and more appearances of people, and understandably, I mean, I've seen people on stage and they say, well, how can you, as a Christian person, Charlie Kirk got attacked and he didn't actually end up answering the question, but how can you as a Christian person stand next to a gay person? And the whole idea of why they're asking these questions is to elicit a response from you. But the best way for us to win is for us to be able to answer the question.
That's
so
right.
Number one question that I get about Judaism or my stance on Judaism, which I always say I have not ever looked into the issue, so I'm not prepared to answer the question. I actually always say, ask Dennis Prager. Call his show and ask Dennis Prager. Is how could you possibly stand on the side of Israel having its own state? Doesn't that make you a Zionist? Doesn't that make you, Dennis, somebody who wants to see the Arabs in that region hurt? How could you possibly stand on that?
Okay. Listen to Dennis's answer, but it seems pretty weird hearing Candace make these claims and make these arguments because now she's almost completely 180'd on these same exact topics, which is totally wild. But listen to what Dennis says, which I think is masterful.
Well, I actually have a PragerU video on that subject. We have a number on Israel. I ask people who attack Israel a question. There are 220 countries approximately in the world. There are, I believe, 52 Muslim countries. There are, I think, 24 or so Arab countries. There's one Jewish country the size of New Jersey. Why, of all these countries, have you isolated that one for attack?
Because well, I mean, because it's really wrong what's happened to the Palestinians in that region. Right. That's why I'm isolating, because you guys are doing really bad stuff. That's why.
Right. Okay. So there's room for 24 Arab states, but not one Jewish state, and only Jewish states have ever existed in the land called Palestine. And Palestine is a Roman name. It's not an Arab name. It was given by the Romans to blot out the name Judea, which was the original name of the area. So there have only been 3 independent states in that area in all of history. All 3 have been Jewish states. The first one destroyed in 586 BC, the second in 70 AD, and the third resurrected in 1948 AD. That's it. They've all been Jewish. There has never been a Palestine. There has never been any other independent state there. People wandered in and out. Arabs lived there. Jews lived there. Christians lived there. And that's what it is.
You know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the state's called, right? It's the Arab people, and they are suffering. And they were peaceful. It was a peaceful place until the Jews got there.
Right. Well, it wasn't a peaceful place till the Jews got there. That's somewhat,
I'm just giving you the stuff.
No, of course. I hear this stuff all the time. I deal with it all the time.
When was it peaceful?
Okay. Then I return to this. Okay. So I'm curious. In light of the fact that you're so worried about people's oppression in the founding of a country, why is Pakistan legitimate? I wrote a piece on this. Pakistan, millions of Hindus and Muslims were killed, millions, in the creation of Pakistan, which never existed in history, ripped out a Muslim state out of India.
I didn't know that.
Yes, in the same year, 1947. Israel was founded 48. This was founded in 47. Millions of refugees from both sides, cadaver trainloads of dead people shipped back and forth, Hindus to India, Muslims to Pakistan. Why is Pakistan legitimate? Far more suffering, far more rape, far more torture and murder. There is something wrong, morally wrong, about isolating Israel. I don't know a country that was founded in pure peace. It doesn't exist. But you have decided to pick on only Israel, the only Jewish state in the world. That is all of a sudden illegitimate.
You know, I love why I love that you're saying this, and this is the reason why. So I actually gave my entire CPAC speech on not obviously I did not give my CPAC speech on Judaism or the Israel state, but I did it on slavery. And I said, why of all of the nations that have had slavery and that have slavery still today, that
listen to this. Hold on. I'm gonna have to have my editor Jason is gonna have to slice this together. Listen to what she says about slavery. And y'all know what she says about slavery now, right? I'm going to have editor Jason merge these two together because it seems like the battle of two Candaces. Like, this is the craziest work. Listen to this. Hold on, let me get a running start. All right, watch this.
But I did it on slavery. And I said, why of all of the nations that have had slavery and that have slavery still today that exist in Africa, right? I went into Ghana. I talked about all of the countries that still have slavery today. Why are you picking on America? Why have we isolated America?
Wow, that's correct.
And then I went and my thesis was really, human history is complicated. It was brutish. It was ugly. It was short. People died. We know that, right? We have now moved into, this is the first time ever that we've moved into this period of morality. I mean, you could go back to talk about the tragedies that were suffered during World War II. I mean, people are still alive and have seen things that you'd be like, oh my gosh, you couldn't wrap your head around. But what I hate so much about the left is that they make it seem like it's only the West. Right? It's only matters when the West does it.
That's right.
And that's what they're really after. It's about demonizing the West, not helping the East.
That has nothing to do with slavery. Was universal. The only serious question, if you're morally serious and the left is not, the only morally serious question is not who had slaves, it's who ended slavery.
That's what I said in my CPAC speech. And you know who it happens to be? Gosh darn it, those white men. They were the ones that ended it first. Those white Westerners that we're supposed to hate.
And to make it worse, white Christians.
And that makes it so much worse. And I did that my whole speech. I went through every empire. I mean, I'm like, and I said, what I realized fundamentally, Dennis, is the left has no idea that the world existed before 1776. Everything starts and ends with America.
Now before 1619, right. But I get your point.
You know what I mean?
Like,
they want to go back to 1619, but like they have no idea. So when they start talking about what they did, it always starts at America, the United States of America. Everything that happened is relevant if it happened in America. Even if it's outside of America right now, it's irrelevant. It only matters within America.
Right. Do they know that there were far more slaves enslaved by Muslims than by Christians?
Arabs. The number one slavers of the world were the Arabs. It always has been, and they still are number one today.
Hold on. I know. You spit your coffee out. I know. Take a second. Wipe your screen off. I know. Clean up the mess that you just made. You just spit your coffee out. Candace did just say the number one slavers of blacks were Muslims. The number one slavers were Muslims. I'm sorry. And slavers even today. I know you can't believe what she just said. I know you can't believe she said it. Let me back that up. So which Candace is it? I've already reached out to editor Jason, and editor Jason is going to merge those two comments together into a super clip. But let's do this again. Let me make sure. Please put down your coffee. I know it's early in the morning. Put down your coffee. Please do not be driving any equipment and no sharp objects, right? Okay, here it comes.
Left has no idea that the world existed before 1776. Everything starts and ends with
Well,
America.
now before 1619,
Right.
but I get your point.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, of course.
oh yeah, they want to go back to 1619, but like they have
Right.
no idea. So when they start
That's
talking about
right.
you know what they did, it always starts at America, the United States of America. Everything that happened is
Right.
relevant if it happened in America. Even if it's outside of America right now, it's irrelevant. It only matters within America.
Right. Do they know that there were far more slaves enslaved by Muslims than by Christians?
Arabs, the number one slavers
correct.
of the world were
Yes,
the Arabs.
that's
Always
right.
has been, and they still are number one today.
The word, I know Arabic. The word for slave in Arabic is the same word as the word for black.
What is it?
Abid.
No way.
Yes.
I didn't know that. Wait, I have to write that down too. Abid. Yeah, this is where I do my research. That is so funny. So the word that means the word black, and it's the same word for slave. That's incredible. It's so sad, and it's so true, and it's so it just speaks even louder to what the left does in being able to convince people towards their own misery. Right?
Yes.
Explain to me how blacks
left-
you get convinced.
Left is a misery inducer.
Is a misery inducer, and it makes you fight for your own misery. That's the uniqueness, and that's why, in a certain way, I almost have to respect the Machiavellian brilliancy, right, behind what they've been able to do. Right? They are able to not only make you miserable, but get you to fight for your misery.
That's right.
They got Black Americans to fight for their misery.
And
they
women,
get women
and
to fight
Hispanics.
for their misery. Jewish people to fight for it,
Yes.
you know, and they're able to do that.
They got Jews to hate Israel.
They did. It's incredible.
It's incredible.
It's incredible. I speak to them, I'm
Yes.
like, wow. I mean, and
Right.
I'm sitting here arguing with them, trying to say, and I just ask questions. You know, I'm not here to pretend to be an expert, but I know what you know. The world was always ugly, so why does it only matter? And it's only relevant when you go back in history. It's like, but Jewish people. I'm like, do you know what this world was? None of us are without sin. Actually, to think that is a godless position. It's a godless position to believe. As soon as you understand Western civilization, you realize there would be no Western civilization if it wasn't for Judeo-Christian
Right,
values.
but the left doesn't care
And they
because
don't care.
Sorry about that, man. I'm muted. I'm gonna just real quick. I want to talk about Pazzy001's comment. Thank you so much. Was she faking it back then? I'm gonna say yes. Candace Owens has always been a leftist, and she's always been faking the funk as it relates to everything she's doing right here with Dennis Prager. She was faking it. She didn't believe it. But she knew these are the hot button topics. These are the juicy bits that the right will jump on, that the right will devour and eat up. So she knows what to say because she's a leftist. She's heard it all before. So she's put it together and says, hey, I'm going to present it to them in a way that they will eat it up. And I'm not saying that there weren't true statements. I just don't believe that she truly believed it. I don't believe she believed it at all. And we know that because listen to how passionately she's saying this now. And then when we watch the clips later on, or I play the video later on, or you go back and watch the video of her talking about slavery and saying the Jews ran the slave trade, listen to her and ask yourself, which one is which? I think she's faking the funk here. I don't believe she really believed it at all. All right, let's keep this dance going. I'm going to back up just a little bit. Okay, let's go.
Us are without sin. Actually, to think that is a godless position. It's a godless position to believe. As soon as you understand Western civilization, you realize there would be no Western civilization if it wasn't for Judeo-Christian
right,
values.
but the left doesn't care
And they
because
don't care.
they're okay with no Western civilization.
Right.
Just to say the West is better makes you a racist.
That's correct. It's
As if we're saying white is better,
ethnocentric.
which is a joke.
And they know it's true because then you say to them, why don't you send your kids to Iran? Why don't you, you've been fighting a lot for the Arabs. Why don't you just consider raising your children in an Arab nation?
Right.
Oh, no, I don't. Well, why?
Right.
Because you
Where
know
will you be treated
that
better
the West
as a woman?
is better. Because
Where?
you know it. Right. It never is. Like you just said about Pakistan. How Pakistan was founded proves that it's not the issue of what's going on in the Israel-Palestinian.
Tibet? I mean, that's one of the most ancient nations on earth, and the Chinese have wrecked it. destroyed it, ruined it, signified it. And where are the demonstrations on that one?
Well, they're not. If the Chinese people were white, there would be plenty.
Oh, or Jewish.
Or
Yes,
Jewish. There
that's
would be.
correct.
Well, you forgot.
Yes.
Jewish is white now. It's just skin color.
Well, except the joke is half of Israel's Jews are not white.
I know, and that's the truth. And so I think I want to wrap this by saying that it is so important for people to understand history, world history, and to really rely upon people that are older to tell you what the world was like, even when they were living it. Because as we see that we have the left that is treading towards trying to make us believe that everybody is a victim and they've only been victimized by one type of individual, that being a white, Jewish and white male, and a religious person. It couldn't be further from the truth. And all you have to do is look back at human history to understand how countries became countries, what happened before 1776, to debunk every single thing, every single factoid, non-factoid that the left gives you can be permanently destroyed if you understand world history. There needs to be, and I also think there needs to be a bridge created. So I always say this, the Black community has so much to learn from the Jewish community. So much to learn from the Jewish community.
You know what Israel means? Right? God chooses a people called Israel in the Bible. Know what it means? It says it there. Nobody knows this. It says it means to struggle with God.
To struggle with
A Muslim woman called my radio show once and she said, you know, I know you studied Arabic. I know you studied the Quran. So I'm very curious. Why aren't you a Muslim? And I said, thank you for the call. I'm honored that you would even want to know the answer. But I have an answer for you. Here is my answer, my short answer. Islam in Arabic means submit.
It does.
Submit to God. Israel in Hebrew means struggle with God. I rather struggle with God than submit to God. And she said, thank you.
Wow.
Because she realized that's right. He's right. I submit. He struggles.
You are such a sage. You're an absolute sage.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you are.
It's 2025. America's debt is over 37 trillion, and the dollar.
Sorry about that. There was a commercial at the end of it. I thought I cut it out. My bad. Anyway, but isn't that wild to hear Candace literally refuting what Candace believes now in 2025, going into 2026? That is some nasty work. So I'm probably going to put all that together. And it's crazy that to hear her on Dennis's show espousing and standing pretty solidly, making decent points rather, on topics that now she totally disagrees with. And that's crazy work. Like, what would cause her to shift from, and back to my point about Candace has always been a leftist. Like, if she held these beliefs so strongly, why would she change her mind and now flip and say that Jews were the ones that were slaving, not Muslims? Like, where do you get that from? How do you make, what changed your mind like that to move like, I mean, that's a true 180. I mean, for real. What changed her mind? I think it's the fact that her mind was never changed in the first place. She's always believed. What she was arguing about leftists was actually her viewpoints. And if you are, I don't think anybody has ever said that Candace was not a good debater. And if you've ever studied debate, if you've ever studied law, you know that you have to be able to argue both sides of the case. You actually have to be able to argue against yourself, right? And you have to be able to find the weak spots in your own argumentation by arguing against your argument, the argument that you hold on to. I just think Candace has been arguing against her own viewpoint for the longest, but she never changed her mind. She never was converted. She didn't believe this. She's always believed this. She just was arguing against it as if she was studying or practicing for debate or preparing to give a legal defense. That was it. What do you think? Tell me if you think I'm crazy. What we got here? So roll up. Here's the thing. Nobody is saying that you can't change your mind. That's not what we're saying. Now, if I said that, please let me know, and I do apologize if I said you can't change your mind. What I'm saying is, however, like, let's go ahead with parenting and being married and being a parent. I think it's very clear to say being married without kids is different than being married with kids. And you do change your perspective now that you have children. But that doesn't change how you feel about being married. That's what I'm saying. we're looking at Candace here. Her viewpoints have completely 180'd. And it's not just a simple like, hey, I used to drink, I used to go out on the weekends and get trash, but now I'm a dad. I decided to stop doing that. That's making a change as you grow because you're a parent. But what we're looking at Candace is like a totally different perspective. So that's why I say that. And you also said something about Christians don't allow people to grow and change earlier. I'm just going to tell you right now that you're wrong about that. Yeah, that's just I don't know where I saw you say that earlier. Yeah, here it is right here. It's crazy. Christians don't give people a chance to grow and learn. I'm sorry. That's a bad take. That's an ignorant take. And I'll say that with my whole chest. That's ignorant. And if you so desire, I'll just do this. I'll even do this today because I'm feeling I got time today. I'm going to drop the link. And Ro, if you want to jump on and show me, tell me, explain to me how I, as a Christian, don't allow people to grow and change. My name is Jason. I will gladly have you come on. All I ask is that you have your camera on. We don't use profanity and that we stay on topic. I'm leaving the link there for you. Because that comment right there is beyond the pale. So if you mistyped it or whatever like that, then please let me know. And I'll gladly, but I'm sorry, that's a dumb comment. Charlie's opinions on Jews changed too because he experienced them firsthand, just like Candace. Okay, so what? My name is Jason. I don't care about Charlie's opinions on Jews. At this point, we got to stop. We can move on from that. Actually, many Christians are criticizing Nicki Minaj for her journey. But guess what? I am not. My name is Jason. I would love, you can tell me how I am wrong in my position on Nicki Minaj. I will absolutely listen to you. I've done probably 3 videos on the topic and given my perspective on what I think about Nicki Minaj and her movement. So please, you're welcome. And you're welcome to correct me if I'm wrong. I'm willing to listen. Now, before we finish up real quick, Candace, somebody else looked at something Candace said recently. And this was like that last 2 episodes before she went on the break, but didn't tell you that she was going on break, right? Candace showed a book called the Talmud Jew or the Jewish Talmud or something like that. It was an interesting book. Well, some people started doing some digging and searching and all that kind of stuff about the actual book. Because apparently, I guess, she was trying to say that Ben Shapiro is a Talmudic Jew, and apparently that's really bad, based upon this book that she showed and told everybody they need to read it. Well, somebody pulled it up, and it's interesting. So let's bring it in. Let's go.
I've learned what's in that Talmud, and I encourage
Green
other
hearts in
people
the chat
at
when you
home
can hear.
to learn what is in that Talmud.
Let's just look at the book she's just picked up. The first thing to note is it's called The Talmudic Jew. It's actually an English translation. The original was written in German in 1871 by an anti-Semitic writer called August Rohling. It was called Der Talmud Jew.
Jewish people were the ones that were trading us. Jewish people were in control of the slave trade.
So that's it. She's got this new insight. Whites have never persecuted black people. It's only Jews. Jews did the slave trade. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Rabbi Ro Reacts. Today, by popular demand, I'm going to be going through Candace Owens. I have tried to stay clear of her, but she came up with a big polemic against the Talmud and against claiming Jews are responsible for slavery. She's offended by, I think most of you know the background, by Ben Shapiro, and she decided not to attack Ben Shapiro, but hit him as a Talmudic Jew. Please do remember, if you're liking this content, to like, to subscribe, and to click on the notification button so that you can get notified as content comes through. Let's go over to Candace.
Ben Shapiro and the midget horse that you rode in on. And I say that on behalf of the world. I know you're going to get applauded by Konstantin Kisin and Andrew Christ is King Clavin and all of the people, the men who have to keep applauding what you do like you're a 4-year-old to make you feel good. But the rest of the world can't stand you. You're obnoxious. You have absolutely no values that exist outside of the Talmud. You describe yourself as a Talmudic Jew, and I've learned what's in that Talmud, and I encourage other people at home to learn what is in that Talmud.
Now, the Talmud, for those who don't know, is a compendium of about 5 centuries of rabbinic discussions, debates, and teachings about how to apply biblical law into every area of our life. So Candace has learned what's in the Talmud. Now I'm going to go through each of the claims she's going to make. She's going to rattle off a whole bunch of them. But before we do so, let's just look at the book she's just picked up. The first thing to note is it's called The Talmudic Jew. It's actually an English translation. The original was written in German in 1871 by an anti-Semitic writer called August Rohling. It was called Der Talmud Jew. At one point, by the way, he taught in the University of Prague. Now, the story is quite an interesting one. There was actually a blood libel trial. Blood libels when Jews were accused of killing Christian children. So in 1883, he literally offered to swear under oath that Jewish religious teachings obligated Jews to eat blood and skin of Christians. Now, anyone who knows anything about Jewish religion, whether you like it or hate it, knows that it's completely forbidden for us to have blood or skin or any part of any human being. We're not even allowed to have blood from an animal. That's from the Torah in Leviticus chapter 17, verse 10. So that shows just how little integrity Rohling had. By the way, since then, the Catholic Church has publicly repudiated any of these absurd claims. Anyway, but going back to Rohling, so this work that Candace has, in his own lifetime, he was actually challenged publicly. There was a rabbi called Joseph Bloch who publicly exposed Rohling's falsehood, and he challenged him to demonstrate that he could even read a randomly chosen passage of Talmud. Now, Rohling had his integrity on the line, so he sued the rabbi for libel. And the Vienna court said, how are we going to work out who's telling the truth? So they decided to appoint expert reviewers. Now, Rohling said they have to be pure-blooded Christians. And the court actually agreed. So they set up a whole bunch of experts, and they spent 2 years going through every one of Rohling's claims. We're going to see a few that Candace claims. Now, at the end of those 2 years, it was very clear his work could not be defended. It was just nonsense. And before the ruling could actually be issued, Rohling decided to withdraw the case. He was ordered to pay costs. He ended up losing his academic position in Vienna. And you might think that should be the end of the story. Well, despite all that, his arguments were resurrected. By a Nazi propagandist, Julius Streicher, the chief propagandist of Hitler. And they've now circulated widely since then amongst neo-Nazis. And these so-called Talmudic quotes, you can find them all over social media. They're very, very popular with anyone who hates Jews, hates Judaism, hates Israel, or any combination of those. Okay, so now that we know this bogus source book, let's go into the actual claims that she's extracted from Rohling.
That you know what Ben thinks of you, because he doesn't just hate me, he hates you too, white men. He hates all black people, okay?
Well, actually, the Talmud tells us to respect every human being. In Pirkei Avos 3:14, it says, "Beloved is every human being, for they are all created in the image of God." The same work in chapter 1:12 says, "Be like the students of Aaron," who is the brother of Moses, "love peace, pursue peace, love all of God's creations, and draw them closer to Torah." Notice, it didn't say Jews. We're meant to love every human, draw them close. Those who are Jewish should keep all the 613 laws of the Torah. Those who are not Jewish, draw them close to the 7 Noahide laws, the basis of ethical monotheism in all its different forms. But either way, we're meant to love everybody, all humans. Elsewhere, you have teachings that every Jew and non-Jew who are righteous can get a place in the world to come. Okay, so the idea we're meant to hate people, God forbid, is complete nonsense. But let's keep going and look at more claims she makes.
If he's following the rules of the Talmud, I mean, when I say hates, they think that we're animals, that they have a right to own us, that they have a right to make us worship them, that they have a right to lie to us, that they have a right to sue us and take everything that we have, that they have a right to deceive us.
Okay, so let's go through some of these. She starts by saying Jews think that that we're animals. That actually comes straight out of Rohling. That claim actually doesn't come from the Talmud. Not just from Rohling. I'll tell you where Rohling actually got it from. An earlier anti-Talmudic polemic was written in 1700 by a guy called Johann Eisenmenger. I'll tell you what the Talmud's discussing there and what he inserts into it. The source is Bava Metzia 114. The Talmud is talking about a technical legal question. Is a non-Jewish corpse subject to the laws of ritual impurity? On one hand, it might not be, because the ritual impurity laws, they're not part of the laws for non-Jews, the Noahide system. On the other hand, the biblical verse that describes impurity speaks about an Adam who dies in a tent. Adam is one of 4 words that's often used for all mankind. So it sounds like any human being, their dead body could impart ritual impurity. And the Talmud says no, because it points out something very specific about the biblical language. In Ezekiel 34:31, God speaks to Israel and says, "You are my flock, the flock of my pasture. You are Adam." So what the Talmud literally says there in Bava Metzia is based on the verse in Ezekiel. You see that it can be cases where you're called Adam, meaning Israel, and it doesn't refer to other non-Jews in the world. Now Eisenmenger adds in words and goes, no, because the non-Jews are all animals, and that's what Rowling copied. Now it happens to be the Bible has 4 words for being human: Ish, Enosh, Gever, and Adam. Now the first 3 always refer to all people, Jewish and non-Jewish, which proves to you that the Jewish view, biblical and Talmudic, is that all human beings are not animals. The word Adam sometimes means all of humanity, and sometimes, as in Ezekiel, it refers specifically to the covenantal identity of Israel. And the opinion of that rabbi in the Talmud over there, therefore, is that non-Jewish corpses don't become ritually impure. Not because they're not human, but because the verse uses Adam in the covenantal sense. In fact, the Talmud in Chagiga 16a says there's different things said about human beings. We've got 3, all humans, Jewish and non-Jewish, have 3 areas in which we're like angels and 3 areas in which we're like animals. All humans, Jewish and non-Jewish, have biological functions like animals. And all humans, Jewish and non-Jewish, have intelligence, speech, and an ability to say holy things that makes us all like angels. August Rowling, who couldn't properly read or understand the Talmud, copied Eisenmenger's distortion, and that's how the error is being repeated word for word by Candace Owens. Next, she claims Jews can own non-Jews. What that actually means is the Torah did not abolish servitude. A Jew could own a non-Jewish servant, but conversely, a non-Jew could own a Jewish servant. That law applies symmetrically. Then she said, we can lie, cheat, or take anything from non-Jews. In fact, the Talmud, Bava Kama 113, explicitly says it's biblically forbidden to steal from anyone, Jew or non-Jew, even from an idolater who rejects all laws and everything. The Talmud actually proves it from a biblical law about that very case where a non-Jew owns a Jewish servant. In Leviticus 25:48, it says after the Jew has been sold as a slave to an idolater, they have to be redeemed. And what the Talmud understands is that means you have to pay the full price. If you could try and cheat a bit and get them, redeem them for less, you're not allowed to. And that's where the Talmud proves that the prohibition against stealing doesn't just apply to law-abiding Jews and non-Jews, but even people who reject all laws. Elsewhere in the Talmud, in Chulin 94a, it says it's forbidden to deceive anyone, even an idolatrous Gentile. So all this stuff she's saying is exactly the opposite of the Talmudic teachings. According to the Talmud, we're meant to love everybody and respect everybody. According to the Talmud, every life is precious to God. According to the Talmud, you cannot cheat, you cannot steal, you cannot lie. Doesn't matter if the other person accepts the law, accepts moral principles, or rejects them all. And according to the Talmud, everybody, Jew or non-Jew, has aspects that are biological animal and aspects that make us angelic. And that's how we're meant to look at each person in the image of God. Now, apart from her quoting August Rowling and therefore completely distorting the Talmud, and by the way, I've got a lot more videos on many of these popular quotes that go all around the internet today of people quoting the Talmud. Either they're misquotes or sometimes they're lines completely out of context. I'll put them hopefully in the write-up below so you can click on and see some of them for yourself. But let's go to the next thing Candace says, because she's now got this next wild accusation against Jews.
And to people that are at home, I implore you to wake up to these people who believe that they are contract lords. I challenge Black Americans to wake up to your true history, because your quarrel is not with white men, okay? Wake up to who publishes these books and keeps us warring with one another. Christians versus Christians, right? Christians versus Muslims. Wake up and learn the true history of slavery, because that wasn't exactly a white men sport, okay? Jewish people were the ones that were trading us. Jewish people were in control of the slave trade. They've buried a lot of it, but it's there, and you can find it. I think all of us need to wake up to this, because it's making me absolutely sick.
So that's it. She's got this new insight.
She's sick of it.
The whites have never persecuted black people. It's only Jews. Jews did the slave trade. Now, what's she basing this on? Again, she just throws her things out. Yes, it's certainly true that amongst all the masses of people who owned or traded slaves were also Jews, right? Let's understand, everybody was involved in the slave trade. African groups that conquered other Africans and sold their enemies out, they basically drove the sale of the slaves, and European governments and companies and everyone was involved in the importing slaves, and everyone owned ships was involved. There was a huge amount of people involved. Somewhere in all of that, there were definitely some Jews, and that's very sad, but it's true. Just like all peoples on earth, there's good and bad ones amongst us. But it's people like Louis Farrakhan, David Duke, it's all the anti-Semites, so you can find tons of their stuff claiming the Jews controlled the slave trade. Now, in 1991, Nation of Islam put out The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews, trying to make this claim that Jews were the main people responsible for the slave trade. And they quote things like the Jewish historian who says, in places like South Carolina or Virginia, the majority of Jewish families owned slaves. Which may be true, but there was like a handful of Jewish families, and the majority of the non-Jewish population in the cities that he quotes also owned slaves. So following that 1991 publication, lots of historians looked deeply into this issue and wrote lots on it, and pretty much all of them reached the same conclusion, that the Jewish contribution was minuscule. For example, David Bryan Davis, who was a professor at Yale, who wrote multiple volume works on the slave trade, writes exactly the same thing. Yes, Jews were a tiny fraction of the masses of peoples who were all involved in the slave trade. I'm going to actually quote it to you inside. The participants in the Atlantic slave system included Arabs, Berbers, scores of African ethnic groups, Italians, Portuguese, Spaniards, Dutch, Jews, Germans, Swedes, French, English, Danes, white Americans, Native Americans, and even thousands of New World blacks who had been emancipated or were descended from freed slaves, but who then became slaveholding farmers or planters themselves. Candace wants to pretend none of those groups existed. It was the Jews. Davis actually goes on to note that in the American South, he takes, for example, you take different time periods, his entry on 1830, he says that he's talking about how many people owned more than 20 slaves. And unfortunately, there were 120 Jews who did. But how many non-Jews owned? The 120 Jews, 45,000 non-Jews also owned over 20 slaves. So Candace wants to pretend that 120 were the majority of the slave owning and ignore the 45,000. If you look at how many people had more than 50 slaves on their plantation, there were 20 Jews and 12,000 non-Jews. So this is just typical vitriolic nonsense. Now, Davis himself in that article then talks about why you have these people. It was obviously before Candace, but people making this outrageous claim, making it all about Jews. And he says the following: Jews, partly because of their remarkable success in a variety of hostile environments, have long been feared as the power behind otherwise inexplicable evils. For many centuries, they were the only non-Christian minority in nations dedicated to Christianization, and thus the salvation of the world. Signifying an antithetical other, individual Jews were homogenized and reified as a race responsible for crucifying the Savior, for resisting the dissemination of God's word, for manipulating kings and world markets, for drinking the blood of Christian children, and in modern times for spreading the evils of both capitalism and communist revolution. I think that's a fair portrayal of what's going on here. You know, it reminds me of that quote from Jean-Paul Sartre, the great French philosopher. He's got an essay in 1944 called The Anti-Semite and the Jew. He says the anti-Semites like to play with discourse. For giving ridiculous reasons, they discredit the seriousness of the interlocutors. They delight in acting in bad faith, since they seek not to persuade by sound argument, but to intimidate and disconcert. And I think perhaps a very nice way to end all of this, because a lot of people seal this slander against us, whether it's by Candace or by others, and you want to feel angry and upset. Remember actually what the Talmud itself teaches us. Shabbat 88b. That means those who are insulted but don't insult back. And the Talmud carries on. Those who hear themselves being disgraced but don't disgrace back. Those who act out of love and stay happy and joyful even in suffering when being abused by others. About them, the verse in Judges 5:31 is applied, that they that love God are like the sun, shining light, going forth with all its might. And may we all be like that. No matter who throws whatever horrific insults at us, let's be, as the verse in Judges says, let's be, as the Talmud says, always respond to hate and to darkness with a love of God and all his creations, a love of all humanity, and with shining in place of darkness, light. If you do like this content, please do remember to like, also comment, we love to hear from you, and also to subscribe and to click on the notification button so that you can be updated when new content comes out. Until then, God bless you all.
Okay, shout out for sure. Hold on. There we go. Shout out for sure. I wanted to play that just so you can get another perspective on the whole Talmudic discussion. I'm not making any claims on the Talmud or anything of that nature, but rather the way Candace presented it, and she's using this as her justification for saying that Jews ran the slave trade and all these other kind of wild claims, and she's getting it from that book. I just wanted you to have another source to be able to look at and be like, girl, what you talking about? All right, we're gonna finish this up. We haven't checked in on our boy Nathan from Milk Bar in a minute. So I'm gonna pull up Nathan from Milk Bar. He did a great job of comparing Candace's most recent rhetoric, and I just wanted to let y'all see this. I thought it would be fun. Definitely make sure the mods can make sure we drop Milk Bar TV's link in the chat. Love for you to go support what he's doing on Twitter as well as on YouTube. Let's bring it in with no
about
further
his
ado.
burial. How come we haven't seen anything about his burial? We saw so much and then we saw nothing. And the reason that's like a big hush-hush secret is because Charlie had a Catholic funeral mass and he is buried in a Catholic cemetery.
But pre the meeting with Erica, you repeatedly questioned why we weren't being told where Charlie Kirk is buried, or even if he has been buried yet. Did you get those answers?
You have the wrong commentator who questioned that. I think that was Milo Yiannopoulos.
You've never asked where Charlie's buried?
Nope.
But if this were on the left and somebody were accusing Charlie Kirk of his wife having murdered him, I assume that you would be talking about it.
Is that what Candace is accusing Erica of?
Yes.
Of murdering her own husband?
She's accusing TPUSA insiders and other members of the right wing, including Seth Dillon, of being involved in the murder of Charlie Kirk, yes.
It's just, I don't even know how to respond to it because it just never happened. Realizing that nothing in Charlie's life was real. It's just something that keeps me up at night. Just nothing in his life was real. The assassination of Charlie Kirk was something akin to a regicide, right? The assassination of a king to install a new ruler who the king would have never approved of. It's so crazy.
She has accused us of lying about Charlie wanting Erica to take over for him if he died.
Never happened. And it just so happened that Charlie Kirk kept notebooks and diaries. He was so diligent that he wrote down his succession plan featuring who he wanted to take over for the organization in the event of his untimely death. Like, you know, in the third notebook, he was like, oh, and if I accidentally get shot on campus, here's what you should do. Call Erica. And then after you call Erica, come find this notebook. And if during this process of our imagination, common sense comes on and we're like, oh, but wait, Charlie, wasn't he like a boy genius? He's a pretty bright kid. Wouldn't he have maybe formalized that succession plan outside of like a diary? But no, he wanted to put it in these notebooks. And then the plan was to guilt us, I think, to try to haunt us with the ghost of Charlie's notebooks that we're never going to be allowed to read, but we're supposed to accept that they most definitely read. Like, for sure. Never happened. I knew it was big. I didn't have the players. I certainly didn't suspect Turning Point USA would be, as I believe, involved in a cover-up. And we can talk about what the motives are of that. They could be financial motives. It doesn't necessarily mean they were involved in plotting to kill him. And I've never said that. Cam Higbee is on the payroll of Turning Point USA beginning in August of this year. So in theory, Cam Higbee, who was laughing off the idea of an assassination attempt, is being paid by the very organization that just had its leader assassinated in broad daylight in front of the entire world. It doesn't necessarily mean they were involved in plotting to kill him. And I've never said that. 'Cause I was in this aggrieved stage and I really didn't poke my head up until weeks later when I could stop crying about it every second. Charlie Kirk, my friend, is dead. First, this is fantastic that Preborn is doing this. To remind you guys about Pure Talk. Also reminding you guys about American financing. Also reminding you guys about GNO Land. Also telling you guys about Just Thrive. You can head over to our website, CandaceOwens.com. You can sign up, buy yourself a hat. I'm not going to stop unless Erica Kirk asks me to stop.
We were told that if we said stop, they would stop. And we said stop. And I'll say it again. Please stop.
Please stop. Please stop lying. But as soon as she tells me what it is I've lied about, I will cease lying immediately.
Grace and peace, everybody. So that is Candace being Candace. And I just wanted you to shout out to Milk Bar TV. I wanted you all to see that, just to see some of the contradictions in the things that she said, just the wide open field of just conflicting comments, disingenuous statements, and the such like that Candace keeps putting out there. And goodness gracious, what are we going to do with them? So I appreciate y'all. Shout out to my good friend, my sister. There she is, the Lady Luck Club in the building, for sure. Thank you so much. At the mods, can definitely make sure that we have her link in the chat. Y'all can see what she's doing over there. I know she is doing some great work talking about Candace, diving through a lot of the good content that's out there. All right, what did I miss? All right, I'm just looking through. Hope I didn't miss anything. I don't think I did. Lots of good family reunion. Y'all make sure you say what's up to your peeps, all that kind of good stuff. Once you jump into the best live chat on the internet, make sure you do that. I'm going to let you know real quick, since y'all are here. Tomorrow, Tuesday, I'm going to be having Frank from a Nigerian perspective. He actually lives in Nigeria. He is a Christian, and he has spoken vehemently. He's spoken great lengths about what's going on in the country of Nigeria. And of course, we'll be talking about the Christmas gift that keeps on giving from Donald Trump, those ISIS strikes that happened just a couple of days ago. So tomorrow at 9:30 in the morning, we're going to be having that discussion. So about this time tomorrow morning. And then tomorrow evening, my gosh, at 7 o'clock, I'm going to have Hatun Tash on. She's the young woman who lives in the UK, who with boldness and confidence goes to Speaker's Square and debates Muslim apologists in the open. And she's a female. She is a pistol. She has a great passion for the people of the UK, for the body of Christ, and to see Islam not spread any further in the West. Well, she's going to be on tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock. We're going to have a great conversation. I want to talk to her about what does she see going on in the UK, and what is her warning to the US, as we've been kind of playing patty cake and footsie with Islam. And slowly but surely, we're losing cities. And one day, regretfully, we'll probably lose a state to Islam. And that's going to be a horrible thing to have. So anyway, we'll be talking about that tomorrow. So tomorrow we got a jam-packed day full of some great interviews. So please stop through. Let me know what you think about it. I'll make sure I put a community post up to remind you, as well as the links are already up for those on my channel as well. So it's going to be a lot. Lots of good stuff tomorrow. So I'm really hoping that y'all will enjoy it. Yeah, she is Hatun. I know what you mean. I know you misspelled it. It's okay. Is awesome, brave, fearless beyond belief. I loved talking to her. Our first conversation was very encouraging, and only to have her, I feel like she's gotten more encouraging the second time I talked to her. So I'm looking forward to you all hearing from her on tomorrow. And the same thing, let me say, Frank from Nigeria, wonderful, wonderful commentary, because he lives in the country that we're talking about, where Christians are being executed. He lives there, like in real time, in 4K. So I think this will be a great conversation. So hopefully we'll all have some good things to talk about. You'll see both of them on tomorrow, my good folk. Yeah, she keeps going. Like, she's been assaulted and she does not stop. I mean, that is something to, again, sometimes we might need to, sometimes we might need a little kick in the pants, and she definitely is one to do that. So shout out for sure. I appreciate y'all, every last one of y'all. Thank y'all to the 600 plus that jumped into the best live chat. Make sure you hit the like button. Help your boy out. Just making sure I got everything good. All right. Y'all do me a favor. All right. It is 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. That is correct. Thank you so much. The link, let me double check, make sure I did put that up, because I know in my mind I put it up, but y'all know sometimes your boy. I just read, somebody told me they didn't like that I wear hoodies. Y'all, come on, man. Find something else to complain about. Somebody said they don't like that your boy wear hoodies. That means I'm going to have to go get 5 more. Every time somebody says they don't like a hoodie, I wear another one. All right, let's see real quick. All right. So we got scheduled for tomorrow. Yeah, Hatun's coming on at 7 o'clock. And I need to put up, Frank's is not up here yet. I'll do that real quick. So yeah, tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then I got Frank coming on at 9:30 in the morning. So this time tomorrow morning. And that'll be good. So make sure you have some good questions, all that kind of good stuff like that. And it's coming. Oh, by the way, I had to work. Somebody called in, an assassin called in to work sick. So I had to put on my maroon hoodie and go do a little bit of work this morning. That's why I got my maroon hoodie on. I know I told you I was on PTO, but somebody needed me to cover for them. So I took care of a couple things this morning. It's so ridiculous, man. It's so ridiculous. I don't know. Somebody I literally just read a post. They said they don't like my hoodies. They literally just read it. Hold on. We're going to make an adjunct Dusty comment. Hold on. Because I just read it. I'm like, wait, are you for real? Don't you know? I love hoodies. Do y'all hear my kids talking like this? They are so loud. But they're happy. You know what? They're happy. So I'm good with that. All right, where'd he go? Oh, for the love. He literally called me the Green Grim Reaper. I don't know why people, man. Don't y'all know, man? Okay, here it is. Okay, let me find the actual video, and I'll pull it up. We'll read it together real quick and get out of here. I'm like, why are you reading this comment so late and commenting like that? All right, what we got? Is this it? Here it is right here, I think. Oh yeah, and by the way, real quick, jump in the chat. Do your kids do chores once they come back from college? Are they doing chores? That's what I need to know. Wait, I got the comment here. Why can't I find it online? I'm looking at it here on my phone, but I can't find it on the actual post. I got it here. That's weird. Okay, last time checking, and I'll just read it. I have no idea why I can't. Here, I'll screenshot it and I'll put it in the community post. It says, dude, what's with the hoodie? Did you pay your light bill? Turn the thermostat up. Look like a green reaper. Like, I don't know why it won't show up. It's showing on my phone, but it won't show. It's showing here, but it won't show up in here. I don't know why. Sometimes YouTube is like that, but anyway, it's too early in the morning. Maybe YouTube needs some coffee. I don't know why it's doing this. This is crazy. Oh, let me see something. And now I hear my wife, man, my whole family's in the kitchen. They love hanging out in the kitchen being loud. I don't know why. Oh, I think I found it. Hold on, y'all. I think I found it. Sorry about that. Yeah, shout out to the best live chat on the internet. Oh, yeah, okay, because I actually have the green hoodie on here. All right, let me find the newest comment. Okay, there it is. Okay, here it is. Okay, I don't think the person's being mean. But I've had people say this before. All right, let me pull it in so y'all can see it. I think I have two videos that have the very similar thumbnails. I think that's why. All right. I don't think the person's being mean. Now that I read it again, I think the person is trying to be, I don't know. I think they're trying to be coy. I don't get it. Dude, what's with the hoodie? Did you pay your light bill? Turn the thermostat up. Looking like a green grim reaper. Dude, I love hoodies, man. Dude, I love hoodies. I do love hoodies. I have four. I think four. I have 12 of them and 4 more in the mail. Matter of fact, you can get one too. And I'm going to drop my link to my store on there. Look, how about that? Tell a friend, tell a friend. Y'all, thank y'all so much for hanging out with me this morning. I know y'all are like, look, man, this show has lost all semblance of logic. I appreciate y'all so much for hanging out with me. Thank y'all so much, everybody who hung out with us last night. Thank y'all so much for subscribing, helping me get closer to my 100,000 subscribers. I will definitely be reporting back once I go to Costco. Y'all told me last night I need to go to Costco. Y'all were crazy, man. All right, what we got? Everybody, thank y'all so much for hanging in there with me. I appreciate it. The plan, let me see. I don't think we're doing another show today. I don't think Candace is, I think Candace is on vacation. She just didn't tell anybody, which I don't understand why she does that. But she is definitely unequivocally getting roasted on Twitter. So I don't know what the point of that is. But we have a packed show tomorrow. We got Frank at 9:30 tomorrow morning. We got Hatun Tosh at 7:00 p.m. tomorrow, talking about Islam, its infiltration in Nigeria as well as the UK, and what can the West do. I'll put up a community post so y'all can give me some questions if you have specific questions that you would like to ask pertain to Hatun or to Frank. I think that'll be cool. So I'll put that up in a moment after I get Frank's stream set up. And everybody, thank you so much for rocking with me. I appreciate y'all getting in with me early this morning. Please make sure you tip your waiter on the way out the door. Make sure you hit the like button, drop some green hearts on your way out the door. Check out, let me know what y'all are watching too, by the way. And I'll see you all real soon. Until then, grace and peace. Take care. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Jay Witt Podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, please do me a favor and hit me up with that 3-piece special. Like the video, subscribe, and of course, share it with somebody who would also enjoy this type of content. And make sure you leave a comment because I do pin the best comments to the top. So thank you so much for tuning in today. And until next time, everybody, grace and peace.